Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilters Heaven in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. Today's episode, number 54, is the finale of the Scrap Fabric Challenge. Before we get to my opinion, I have two announcements to make. First, in celebration of our 1-year anniversary, we're going to announce a giveaway next week. Be sure to tune in. Also, it's time again to have a Q&A video. So please put all your questions into the comments section and I will try to answer as many as I can in an upcoming video. Now, let's get to my opinion. I saw a question asked on a YouTube video recently, and the question was, as a new quilter, what ruler should I have? And I feel like there's so many rulers out there that new quilters do need some guidance. So I'd like to take a moment to talk about rulers. If you only had one ruler, the ruler you would need is the one to cut strips and square up your fabric as it comes off the bolt. And it doesn't matter what brand, you need the brand that you like, but something that's 6 inches or 6.5 inches wide and 24 or 24.5 inches long is an absolute must and should be your first. When you get a second ruler, the next thing you need is a square ruler in various sizes, and you don't need them all the first day you start quilting, but you should have one that is 9 inches or 10 up to 12 inches, and you should have one that's about 6 inches, maybe as small as 4. Because when you're cutting squares that are 4.5 inches large, you don't want to be using a big ruler like this. It just doesn't make your life easy. Now, what other rulers do you want or need? Well, there are so many on the market. There are diamond rulers. This is a 60-degree diamond. There's also a 45-degree diamond. There's wedge rulers of all different sizes. There's 60-degree triangle rulers. This is by no means the only two sizes they're available in. There's many. There's also specialty rulers. There's rulers to help you make log cabin blocks. There's rulers to help you make pineapple blocks. There's rulers, specialty rulers that help you make units. Now, anybody who's been watching this channel for any length of time knows I'm a big Deb Tucker fan. And these are units that you make all the time. She has a ruler that helps you make flying geese units, square and a square units. These help you with half square triangles, quarter square triangles, and combo units, which is a combination of half square triangle and half quarter square triangles. Now, you're not going to go out and buy all these in one time, but if you start seeing that you're making a lot of flying geese, you probably want the wing clipper ruler. If you love the 60-degree diamond shape and you do that over and over again, you probably want a 60-degree diamond ruler. The biggest thing that I can tell you is don't buy a ruler that you already have. And I don't mean the exact same ruler. What happens is there are rulers that are the exact same shape and different people put them out, so they have different names on them. But essentially, they're the same ruler. There might be different lines on them. So before you make a purchase of a ruler, make sure you don't already have that shape. Even if it doesn't have the correct lines on it for what you want to make, you can always figure out where that line goes and put painter's tape on it so that you can use the ruler and not have to pay to buy another ruler. So that's my biggest takeaway to what ruler should you have. You need the basics, the long ruler for cutting your fabric off the bolt. You need your square rulers to cut different size squares, which can be subcut into triangles and quarter square triangles and half square triangles, I should say. And then you've got all the specialty rulers. Don't buy ones you're not going to use. Only buy ones that you have a project that you're going to do, and then hopefully you will use it again and again and again and make it worth the money. That's it on rulers. Let's get to today's episode. Remember the beginning of the scrap fabric challenge? I went to my scrap pile and I pulled navies, black and white, and grays. And I came up with this pattern where I used 4.5-inch strips, cut them in various lengths, put them in columns so that I ended up with a 72-inch length for my quilt. I loved making this so much that when a donation came in of 15 fat quarters to make a donation quilt, I decided to do the same pattern with the 15 fat quarters. And I had to add some other fabrics in there so you can see the prints that are from the 15 fat quarters and the blenders that I added to it. And I made the exact same quilt with pieces cut 4.5 inches wide to finish to 4 inches, and cut them in various lengths, and then put them into a 72-inch length pieces. And then from the leftovers from both of these quilts, I made these two second quilts. Now, on the 15 fat quarters, that was it for the beginning part. This one, remember, I did the Radio Way from Jaybird Quilts. This is the last of the leftovers quilt. I've given you the instructions over the last several weeks. Everything that I took out of my scrap heap to make the first quilt, plus anything else I pulled out from the scrap heap to add to the other quilts, with the one minor exception of the color in the second quilt for here. All the little pieces are in this quilt. There's nothing to put in the crumb bin. Everything was cut up enough that it went in the leftovers went into the dog bed stuffing bag. This is what I have left from things I pulled, not for the first quilt, because that I was not allowed to put back in the stash. This is stuff that was pulled subsequent, but nothing small. These can be cut into 2.5-inch strips. These are big enough pieces to use in other things. No crumbs. How do you keep scraps out of your scrap heap? Don't put them in. I kept sewing until they were all used. Same thing over here. I had to pull extra fabric to make the first quilt. I did use every single little scrap left from the 15 fat quarters. Anything else that was too small, smaller than 1.5-inch square, dog bed stuffing bag. I still do have some of the pieces of fabric that I pulled for blenders. Now, with both of these piles that I have, I will think about what here do I have that I can use for binding? What here can I piece together to use for backing? This quilt is just 40 inches wide, which means to put it on the long arm, it's just a little bit too wide for one width of fabric. If I piece together some of this, I may be able to put something down the center of the back to make it wide enough that I only need one width of fabric instead of two. So my mission in life lately is using up the scraps and stash without adding to my scrap pile. And I think both of these quilts are great examples of doing that. Now, you may like one of these better than the other, But the one thing I can promise you, even if you don't like one of them, somebody else will love it. When we give donation quilts, people are so appreciative. Now, we give to Project Linus, but I know other people do Quilts of Valor. Other people give to other organizations. But we have so much fabric, and if you love to sew, sew all your scraps together and give them to a worthy organization, and people will be so grateful, and they love them. So that's it for today. Until next time, happy sewing.